Hey everybody, I'm Jason Mefford and I'm here with Brad Miller and we're walking a spiritual path again. Everybody, we're waving if you're watching us on
Woo.
video. Yay! Hey
And if you're
everybody.
not, why not? Maybe you should be.
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe you should be. I've got a YouTube channel that's out there that has all these out there if you want to watch this on video as well. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about sensing others' energy. And so we want to share some different examples, and because this is one of the spiritual gifts of discernment, right? And actually discerning what's actually behind someone else's actions, what's behind someone else's words, and really kind of discerning who other people really are, is a key thing that I know I've been working on. Brad's been working on a little bit too, and so we thought we would at least start talking about that, and we'll see where it goes from there.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think this is something, I think that's important. But regardless, I think it's something that is very accessible for people to start working on. And if you're going down a spiritual path, if you're trying to be more aware of things, if you're trying to work on strengthening, developing your intuition, or other spiritual gifts you may have, I think this is a really good place that you can work from. I know we've talked, we talked about some other kind of what I call entry level stuff in the past about, grocery shopping, deciding what piece of fruit you should pick. What's the best head of lettuce that's going to, give you the most nutritional value and all that. Or picking your clothes out, deciding, I wore this bright green shirt. Again, if you're watching, you can see it. But, I was bright green shirt today, because something says, hey, you should wear that shirt today. Just the energy of the shirt needed to come today, I guess. But I think this is another one is sensing the energy of people that you come in contact with.
Yeah.
And the example, yesterday I had, an example of this. So my daughter and I were out hiking and we came upon a group of seniors who were walking, senior citizens that are kind of going, they were all kind of in a line walking, and there was, I don't know, five or six of them. They were all very, very friendly. None of them, um, said, screw you, get out of my woods or anything like that, get off my lawn, and nothing like that. But there was obviously each of them were different, and they all walked through, and a couple said, good morning, or how you doing? The last one said, hey, it's a beautiful day, isn't it? You know, but after they walked past, I turned to my daughter and said, so, we just walked past those individuals. What did you feel when you walked past them, when they interacted with you? And I wanted her to just to see what kind of senses or sensations or feelings that she might have received from it. And she's, told me how she felt. She's like, oh, it was fun like this and this and this. And she's like, and how did you feel? So then I was like, well, I kind of felt a lot of the same things. For the most part, they felt very warm. I think they enjoyed seeing you out here as a kid walking in the woods. They like that. Um, they were out there to experience nature and the peace of nature and all those things. But, one person in particular, though, seemed a little heavier than the rest. This person didn't, that maybe they kind of looked down a little bit. Then we just kind of nodded. They didn't really say anything to me, but just passing them, they just kind of felt a little heavier than the other ones. And she's like, yeah, yeah, I kind of agree. Almost like a little sad or something. Um, and so that was just playing around with it yesterday with my daughter, is just getting her thoughts on what she felt, sharing what I felt, kind of what I thought. And by no means do I know what's going on behind the scenes with these people. The individual that felt a little heavy, maybe they were very sad that day. Maybe they had some illness or something that was kind of heavy. I don't know what it might have been, but just the fact that I was trying to pick up on some of these feelings, and sort of putting a label on what I was experiencing with that. Um, and with my daughter and having her do it too. I felt that was really valuable. Like I said, a really easy place to start from. just a quick little 30-second maybe interaction with somebody.
Yeah, and because we have interactions with people all the time,
Hmm.
and people will say or do certain things, and you can start to play with and kind of hone these skills of knowing what's behind the action or what's behind the words,
Hmm.
because usually there's energy behind it, right? And so we talked about the grocery store a lot.
Hmm.
That's one of my main social interactions because I don't leave my house most of the time. Okay. So that's why we talk about grocery store a lot. But I've started to be more aware, right, of certain things that are going on around me. Because a lot of times the things that we think are happening is not actually what is happening. Or the words that people are saying is not really what they're saying from an energetic perspective, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's everybody that's listening to kind of maybe put it in a way that you can all kind of understand, because everybody listening has had some of this go on in your life where you meet somebody and there's just something off about that person. You don't know what it is, you don't know anything specific, but maybe you feel a little creepy, or you feel like uh, this person's a manipulative, lying kind of person. Something. You just kind of get this sense from interacting with them. Other people, maybe you get the sense of this deep peace and love, and you just want to be around those people,
Hmm.
right? And so if you're having those kind of sensations, that's some intuitive hits that you can actually start to develop even more, right? And what'll happen, because again, for me, sometimes I will sense things and I don't want to believe them, right? Like, well,
Yep.
surely that person is not creepy and maleficent towards me and wanting to harm me.
I think the word for malevolent.
Physically, malevolent.
Maleficent is the Disney character with turns
Oh,
into a
okay,
dragon.
malevolent. Thank you for
Yeah.
malevolent. There we go,
There you go.
malevolent. Right. Okay. Either
We don't want to get
trying
sued
to,
by Disney for like talking about their stuff, so we need to be make that clear.
yeah, make that clear. And if you want to go watch the movie, you go find it out on Disney Plus or whatever,
There you go.
right? Because I think a lot of times, especially if they're people that are in our life,
Mhm.
family, friends, coworkers, we don't want to believe certain things. We want to give people the benefit of the doubt.
Mhm.
But the problem is, and again, I've had this experience over and over again, where things just continue to happen that reinforce that first impression, that first intuitive discernment that I got on people. And if I ignore it, I get taken advantage of. I get
Mhm.
hurt, right? They do something that I would not have had to be in that situation, right? And so how do you actually, do it? Well, you got to start trusting yourself a little bit, and you got to start playing with it, right? So the example that Brad just gave with him and his daughter out in the woods, especially if there's somebody else that you're with, it's nice to have some of those experiences and then talk about them,
Mhm.
right? And so here's the grocery store experience for me, right? Because again, I'm starting to be more aware of what is going on around me and look for things that are out of the ordinary. Okay. And so, my partner and I were in the store getting our groceries, and there was this couple, a younger couple that was stopped talking to this one person in this part of the store where we had to walk by. And they were sitting there, so there were the three of them that were chatting. No big deal, right? I mean, it's not unnormal for people to be in the store talking to other people that they know.
Mhm.
And so we walked past them, but we're not very far away where we have to stop, to get the eggs. We were getting eggs. So we were looking at eggs, and those take, you don't just throw them in the cart. You have to kind of open them up and check and make sure there's no broken eggs and gently put them down.
Yep.
And so in the meantime, and this couple was probably 10 feet away from us. We've stopped. They concluded that conversation and they walked by. So they were walking from behind us.
Mhm.
Okay. No eye contact. They were walking from behind us. And all of a sudden, the guy makes something like, "Hey, how you doing?" Something like that. And again, coming from behind us, it made us kind of have to turn. And when he did that, he made a scooping uh, with his left hand, like he was scooping something out of our cart. Interesting. And I was like, okay, little protection wall. This is not normal. They don't know who we are. They're saying hello from our back, coming on our weak side on the back. This is interesting. And so I just kind of watched. They kind of went off into another part of the store. And so we continued doing what we were doing, but I kept catching glimpses of them at different points in the store. Couple, no cart. They're in a grocery store,
Hmm.
chatting up people everywhere, no cart, don't have anything in their hands.
Never like a basket or anything. Nothing, huh?
Nothing. No basket, no cart.
Hmm.
Okay. And like I said, continue to see them in different places throughout the store, talking to people, but not there to buy anything. Interesting. So we were in the store for 20, 30 minutes, whatever it was. And wouldn't you know, as we're getting ready to check out, I see them come to the front of the store, nothing in their hands, no checkout. They walk out the front door and start talking to somebody right outside the front door. And they camped on that site for probably 10 minutes so that there was no other way to go.
You just go past them.
We had to go
Mhm.
past them again. So when we went past them the second time, yeah, I did a few things, right, to protect us. But it was obvious, right? And again, as my
Hmm.
partner and I talked about it, something was not right about those two people,
Mhm.
right? And even though they were like, "Hey, how you doing? It's a great day," that wasn't the energy that was coming from behind them, and
Mhm.
why they were there and why they chose to engage with us, right? And so sometimes it may be something like that where it's, you start to sense the energy and know, you know what? I don't think I want anything to do with you. You're giving me the creeps. You're making these weird movements. You're, doing all this stuff. I'm going to insulate and stay away from you. Right.
Mhm.
Or on the flip
Hmm.
side, again, there could be people who, as you meet them, right, you just feel this overwhelming sense of love and peace and calmness, right?
Mhm.
You can see in their eyes this love that's kind of radiating out, right? And those people you do want to have the interactions with. But you have to kind of start to trust what you're feeling,
Mhm.
to be able to start discerning what's actually happening.
Yeah. It could go both ways. Like you said, there can be the good behind it, the bad behind it. But like that was a kind of a creepy interaction that you had there at the grocery store with those two. Like
Yeah, want to come shopping with me, Brad? We'll have all kinds of weird experiences like that.
that's what I would say that's what you get for living where you do, but
Well, it's part and parcel. It's kind of like
yeah,
the bar in Star Wars. There's all kinds of
the cantina, yeah.
in the cantina. Yeah, there's all kinds in the cantina. But again, and it's just interesting, right? As you start to practice, as you start to trust those feelings that you're having, And then
Mhm.
as you can start to maybe share with other people who are having the same experiences, right, that are there with you. So I have my partner that I could talk to, and it's like, oh yeah, something was up with them.
Mhm.
And I kind of filled in blanks, she kind of filled in blanks, and because I didn't notice at first the scooping motion that he did with his hand because my head was behind me,
Mhm.
and she saw him before I did. And so things like that where it's like, oh, okay, got it,
Mhm.
right. um and even again, another experience that somebody that I've known for over 10 years now. um First time I met him, it's one of those people that I don't trust as far as I can throw them, sort of thing, and there was just something always off. But this person always kind of gives off this, it's a female, older female, gives off this, grandmotherly, oh, I love you, Brad. Oh, you're my honey, and all this kind of stuff. But always kind of got the creeps like, no, there's something else going on behind. That's not really who that person is. They're
Mhm.
wearing a mask, right? And if you start to look, or you start to interact with people long enough, they can't keep up the act for very
Mhm.
long, and the mask starts to slip, and then you see who they really are if they are pretending to be somebody else.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, because I
the only way you can know that really is from the energy that they're putting off, and your intuition in feeling and knowing what's behind whatever they happen to be doing.
yeah, there's some people out there that are great actors, let's say, that can put on that act, that mask, and wear it for a long time, especially when they're out in public around you. Like maybe when they're at home, whatever, but
Different.
but it can beat it every time. And um, if it's someone who's really trying to put a mask on, they're probably trying really hard to keep that facade up. And so the only way you may be able to tell is, like you said, through the energy, through that feeling. Some people may call that spidey sense, the tingle or something like that, where you're just like, something just doesn't seem right with that person. And I've had the interaction with people before, where that person just doesn't seem quite like what they're putting out to be, you know. Um, because they can hide they can hide behind their actions, they can hide behind their words, even their facial expressions. They can hide behind, but they can't hide their energy. And so, if you're able to start picking up on the energies, you can see behind the mask, behind the costume that they're wearing, and kind of see who they really are. It's kind of like, the Wizard of Oz, where you pull open the curtain and you see the little old man behind there pulling all the strings.
Never
That's
mind the man behind the curtain.
That's that's right. Get rid of your little dog too. Exactly. The little dog Toto is basically your kind of your intuition, is your sensing of what's going on there, and you can use that to help you pull behind that curtain to see who's really there. It's not the all powerful Oz. It's
Yeah.
the little guy there in the.
Well, and it's interesting because you bring up the dog too, right? So again, it's
Mm,
dogs can help. If you don't have somebody else to talk to about it, the dogs also, they sense these things better than we do.
mhm,
And so I'll give you another example from my life. I've lived here for a year, right? In this house that I'm in now. I sit on my porch every single day, multiple times during the day. Okay. And so it's been interesting to watch. Uh, my dog is a good protector. He feels this great need to protect. And so if anybody's kind of like throwing bad energy our way, or he feels like somebody's off, he will bark at them, right? He usually doesn't growl. He usually doesn't, he's a loving dog, but he's fierce when it needs to, from a protection standpoint. And so I've just noticed, again, as people in the neighborhood are walking or doing things, the neighbors he barks at and the ones he doesn't. And so I started noticing that and started to kind of tune in a little bit to know more about my neighbors, right? And who I probably don't want to have anything to do with, and who want to have something to do with me that I don't want to have anything to do with them. And so I think it was yesterday or the day before. And this is interesting because it ties together some of the different things we've talked about before and even in today. So it was either yesterday or the day before. I was sitting out in my on my porch in the morning. Sun was coming up, beautiful day, and the bunnies were out, the rabbits were out. Okay, now typically it's not unusual to see a rabbit, uh, but there were two, three, four rabbits. I couldn't tell how many there were because they kept um, showing up different places. And one thing that was different is that they actually came across the street right towards me and then went on my property. Typically, they stay on the other side of the street and go along that other side of the street because there's open space over there. So, very interesting. In the morning, I obviously was getting rabbit medicine, right? So, I looked it up. Rabbit is around fear
Fear. Hmm.
and not allowing yourself to get caught into your fears, right? So, okay, get it, understand that, got it. And then I'm sitting on my porch later in the afternoon, and this one neighbor, we don't have mailboxes at our house. There's like a bank of mailboxes for the subdivision. So you have to go to the mailbox to get your mail. And so probably I don't know, three, four times a week at least, I watch this one neighbor walk down. He's going to the mailbox, comes back with his mail. I've been here a year. So probably I have watched this man 100 or 150 times, right, in the year, walk to the mailbox and walk back. And so I'm sitting there and he walks down to the mailbox and I'm sitting there kind of looking the other way. And all of a sudden I get the sense that somebody is kind of coming up behind. Instead of walking again on the other side of the street that he normally walks on, because he lives on the other side of the street, he walks up and back on the same side.
Hmm.
He came over onto my side of the road and kind of walked up behind me and started talking to me. First time in a year. First time in a year. And the first thing he said is, "Have you been having any rodent issues?" Well, I know we've had some rats out by the garage a little bit because they ate through some of my spark plug wires. I had to get that fixed. That's a whole nother story. I can't remember if I told that here or not. Um, sometimes we'll see a squirrel or something like that. You're like, oh, because I was walking by. That house across from you. It's an Airbnb. You know that, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know that, right? Because the person that bought it told me, right? And I watch the people come and go, right? So I know it's an Airbnb. He's like, yeah. When I was walking back, I saw a whole bunch of mice and rats just kind of running around over there, and it made me concerned because I know that a lot of rodent work had been done on your house before you moved in here, and I just want to make sure that you don't end up having a problem with that too. You might want to go talk to that neighbor about it. Like, this is interesting, right? And then he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I didn't mean to stop, but this is the first time I've seen you out sitting on your porch. And by the way, my name is, and what's your name?" Very weird interaction, right? And again, this is a neighbor that my dog barks at. I don't know what it means exactly. I know I don't want anything to do with that neighbor, right? I know I'm not going to listen and get into my fear about rodents on my property, right? Because remember, I had bunny medicine in the morning,
Mhm.
and then this guy comes and tries to scare me talking about mice and rats. Now, it's also 100 degrees here during the day. Mice and rats don't run around in the middle of the day in the sun. So something was going on with that interaction. What it is, I don't know. I don't have to know. But I did get the sense of don't get in your fear. Right. And so again, I learned that
Mhm.
in the morning. I was reminded of that in the morning, not giving it any thought. It's not an issue. It was a weird experience.
Yeah, it was.
Right. It was a weird experience, but I see it for what it was. Right. And I think that's what we're kind of trying to talk about here is sensing that energy from others and trying to understand. There were lessons in that for me, right?
Mhm.
I hope I learned them. I'm placing more attention and awareness on it so that I
Mhm.
do. But that's, the more we do it and the more we get comfortable and the more we get the confirmation from the things, um, the better we're going to get at it. Because for me too, it was another thing of of not allowing my personal power to go away, right? To
Mhm.
stand in. If somebody tells me something that I know is not right, I'm not going to believe it. I shouldn't
Right.
believe it, right? And so for him to come back and say, "Oh yeah, I saw mice and rats like running all over the place over there on my way back today," bullshit, bullshit. Right? It's 100 degrees outside. There's rocks everywhere. There's not a bunch of mice and rats running around. So
Mhm.
I know what he was telling me was not the truth. So I don't know why that one came up too, but there we go.
No, it's again, it's the idea of paying attention to what's going on, and that's really the first thing step is to work on your awareness
Yeah.
of just trying to become aware of things, and maybe it's not picking up on energy per se right away. Maybe it is just noticing behaviors that don't seem to jive with expectations. Kind of like the guy today, or the other day that walked past, it didn't really jive. Why is he on this side of the street versus the other side of the street? Why is this the first time he's ever come and talked about how he's never seen you up before when you've seen him hundreds of
Hundreds of times.
times. Right, like it just didn't jive. Or your grocery store couple where they're in a grocery store without a cart, without a basket, without any groceries in their hands, chatting up with people. Like, just the actions, the things that are being said didn't really go with kind of what they were trying to come across as. Maybe that's the first sign of, hey, okay, let's start working on awareness of people. But then it's to take the next step of the feelings that they're putting off, the energy behind that interaction, not just what you can see, not what you can just hear. Because we talked about that sometimes, they can lie. People are, if they're good enough actors, they can put on a show for you, and they can make you think that, oh, they're very friendly and they're looking out for you. Like, I want to make sure those rats and those mice don't get into your shed or your house or cause you problems, right? Like, they may say one thing, but the energy that you can start feeling just is off, you know. Um and it's not always nefarious. Like, I mean,
No.
we're trying to put out examples of things that are kind of obvious that there was something going on here or just doesn't right, just as an example for you. But it could just be even smaller things. Like, I know, so and you don't, I feel sometimes kids can pick this up a little easier than we can because they're not worried about everything else going on and can be more focused on some of these things. But when I was a little kid, I had a family member who every time I was around this individual, I just kind of get this creepy vibe. I just didn't want to be around this person. And they tried to be nice. they tried to say hi and be friendly and social with me. But I just kind of wanted to like, okay, that's great, and wanted to go the other direction, right? Um, and it wasn't anything huge, like nothing big dramatic happened there, but it was just kind of as you would call it, like a spidey sense or just kind of a weird tingle or something. It just didn't feel comfortable around this individual for some reason. And again, nothing ever happened with it. There was never anything that made me think this person had bad intentions. It just that feeling just didn't sit right with me. Um, and so sometimes it's just something as simple as that. But again, it's just becoming aware of the things going on. Don't worry about it, what it means. Just figure out, just feeling the stuff and noticing it being around there.
Well, and without getting into any details, right? As an adult, it was confirmed why you were feeling creepy about that person later, right? But you didn't know that as a kid, but you kind of got confirmation later. And that's
Right.
typically, how it works. And again, even with that, because you raise a good point, that I want to make sure that I have a lot of weird things happen to me and a lot of weird interactions. Some are not good. Some are good. Some are just they are.
Mhm.
Like, the experience with the neighbor, again, I don't know if he realized I don't he wasn't I think that situation happened for me to hear certain things and to respond in certain ways. And I as a learning. He probably didn't even have any idea what was going on. He was probably just kind of being a mouthpiece of someone else sending me a learning experience. And part of it I did well. I responded well, but I also learned I should have done things slightly different in my interaction with him, right? So to me, it was a learning
Mhm.
experience too. Not that I think it was nefarious or dark like some experiences that I've had have been, but
Mhm.
it was a way for me to kind of trust and learn and experience something so that now I can do it better next time,
Mhm.
right? When it's not so friendly, right?
Mhm.
And it's just, again, I have these experiences that happen to me all the time. Um, and some are just an easy way of helping me learn so I'm ready
Mhm.
when the big things happen.
Right. You rather train on the easy stuff
Yep.
before you get to the big.
Yep. Well, and it's even, I think sometimes too, we can, uh, because I had this experience this week too, where, again, not unusual for us to see coyotes. They're all over the place here, right? You hear them howling most of the nights. There's a pack or two that live very close to my house. Um, and my dog goes ballistic when coyotes come, right? I mean, that's just
Mhm.
coyotes and javelinas, man. I have to put up extra barrier in my screened in porch so he can't like
Tear
get
through it and go out.
tear
Yeah.
through and go. But this last week, there's been again sometimes normally you see them at dusk and dawn
Mhm.
is usually when they're out, especially when it's so hot. But I have seen a few during the day, and which again is a little bit um, different. But
Mhm.
I can also kind of sense in a little bit as to what's going on. Is it just a coyote being a coyote? Is there a message? Is it something else? And so again, last couple of days, it was in the middle of the day, and I
Mhm.
was out on the porch with the dog, right? Because I'm not ready for it in the middle of the day. But all of a sudden, a coyote comes trotting down the road right in front of me on the porch, coming towards me so I can see him coming.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, I'm like, okay, well, maybe the dog won't see him. But when I looked at and perceived the coyote, it was a little different. It wasn't just a coyote. It looked different. It was a coyote, but it wasn't a coyote. If that makes any sense. And my dog didn't freak out as much as he normally does. But again, what happened, instead of the coyote just going down the street or going into the open space, he crosses onto my property and goes across my front yard before he goes on. Different pattern than normal. Stops and kind of glances my way. It was a coyote, but it wasn't a coyote, right? And I got the sense of it. And even though my dog was freaking out, I'm like, no, don't worry, buddy. It's a friend. It's a friend who's just here to check up on us, right? And I got that sense. I feel it now, even as I'm saying it too, right? Because the coyote looked different, and I
Mm-hmm.
sensed a different energy off of it than you would just a normal coyote, right? And so again, as we start trying to sense that, it's not even just other people. It can be
Mm-hmm.
animals. It can be, things around us. It can be what we consider inanimate objects that have certain energies about them that we either want to be around or we don't want to be around as we start to kind of, place more awareness on it. There's certain things in my house that I thought I loved, but all of a sudden it's like, nope, that energy doesn't belong here anymore. Um, so it even extends beyond people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
easy and it's a good place to start with
Yeah.
people because I think we all kind of get a sense of that, that creepy feeling or the really good feeling. We've all had that about certain people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're interacting with people most every day of some sort. Um, and there's verbal cues, there's more actions directed towards us. I think it's easier to pick up on some of the stuff that way than, a coyote walking down your street, or in my case, I had a fox and I saw a little red fox and I was on my back deck and I kind of saw around the house. It kind of started going down, coming around the corner, around a row of trees and walked down my driveway.
Mm,
I went behind the house. I went to the other side of my deck and I saw the coyote going down my driveway. It kind of curls back around and underneath the deck. And I watched him go underneath the deck and he kind of looked up at me as he went under my deck. And by the time I turned around to go check, gone. There was no fox there.
mm.
And that was the first time I'd seen a fox out here at this house since we moved in. Um, but
Yeah, so when those kinds of things happen, pay attention,
yep,
right? For all of us, when when literally a person disappears in front of you, you know something was up,
yeah,
right? When
oh yeah,
all of a sudden someone appears and disappears within a very short period of time, something else is going on,
mhm.
right? And I had another experience with that where a person appeared, came up to me and went like this and touched me and was gone. Moved like they were going into the store. Yeah, they went into the store, but they were gone.
Weren't in the store.
They were not in the store, right? And so when things like that happen, it's like pay attention. When the fox just disappears underneath you on the deck,
Hmm.
there's a reason
Yeah.
why the fox showed up, right? And it wasn't
Hmm.
just a fox in that instance.
Yeah. I even went down there underneath it and looked. Like as soon as I saw it and I went down the step to look, nothing. Couldn't find it at all.
Hmm.
Yep.
Little fox medicine. Yeah. So anyway,
Okay.
that's yeah, sensing others' energy, being more aware of kind of the energies that are around you. And again, it's, both Brad and I are working on this. We haven't figured it out, but we just thought
God no.
we would share some of the things that we're going through, because I'm sure a lot of you that are listening may be experiencing some of the same kinds of things, or may want to learn how to kind of lean into it. And so we're just kind of sharing
Yeah.
what we're doing, right, to try to develop those gifts a little bit more.
Yep. Cool.
Because that power of discernment and being able to sense the energy, uh, it's a two-edged sword, right? Because sometimes you don't want to know
Mhm.
certain things, but it's probably one of the most important of the spiritual gifts that we can have and develop, that will serve you well when you hone that more.
Yeah. So go out and try it at home. Oh,
Yeah, this is not like those infomercials. Don't try this at home. No,
right.
try this at home. Try it
Go
at the
do and try.
grocery store. Try it when you're visiting at work. Everything.
Yeah.
Because the more you play with it, the more you're gonna actually understand how to do it for you in your
Right.
way that works for you.
Right. Yeah. Just because we do it a certain way or our experiences are one way does not mean that that's the way it's going to be for everyone else. Like I don't have random coyotes walking across my property like Jason does. It's just, or, random people swooping in my carts. It's a different experience, but it doesn't, it's individual like that. So,
Yep. Yep.
uh, cool.
Exactly.
Well, with that, we will wrap up for today. We thank you guys for listening. Uh, Great that you tuned in today, whether it's on the podcast, listen to us, watching on the video. Um, Again, we appreciate you. Hopefully, you have found this helpful. We'll catch you on the next episode.
All right. See you, everybody.
See ya.